Hello, hello, hello. Hello, my family.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Hi, 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 hi. We're going to give you guys a few minutes to come in, but we actually want to come in. Let us know if you can hear us good and clear. And once you come in, can you kindly share it for us, please? We want to get as much persons in on the conversation as possible. So just give us a thumbs up if you can hear us. Give us a thumbs down if we need to work on the volume. Hi.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us good? Are we good with volume? Do we need to work on the volume? How we acting? Let us know, let us know. Thumbs up if we good, thumbs down if we need to pull up our volume. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, great. Do us a favor, please. Can you go ahead and share this live for us? We will not be on long. Believe it or not, we will not be on long. We have our guest. She's already in place. So, we could talk. This is a conversation. So be prepared to ask questions if you have any questions after she would have spoken, after she would have shared, after she would have given us some tips and all that other kind of good stuff. So if you have questions, have your questions ready, have your questions handy. Because we want to hear from y'all too. All right, so we can give you a few more moments, just give everyone a few minutes more just to get in the building. And once you get in the building, and help us out and go ahead and share that link for us, please. Awesome, thank you so much. So good to see everybody. Hi, Chris. Hi, Nikisha Charlton. It's the best nail tech this side of heaven, y'all. Hi, Keith. I see my mommy is on. Hi, Shavonia. Hey, everybody. Hey, y'all. All right. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So we got some people that are on. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So our guest tonight, my husband is going to introduce her and say a little bit about her because they would have known each other a little bit longer than me. I come in on the tail end, but she's a woman of God.
Yeah, she's a gift and a gem to the body of Christ.
She is. She's a beautiful person. She's a mother. She's a wife, mother of two. She has a son and she has a daughter, and she has only one husband. Only one, and I think that could be it till Jesus come for her.
Only one Mr. Gavado Thompson.
The one and only. So she's gonna come and she's gonna share, but I think my husband wants to talk about it a little bit.
Tonight we're having a friend, a big sister, one who's been working in ministry for decades upon decades, but she ain't that old.
Right.
So she's been working from a long time, from a young child. And she's a doctor, and I'm not a medical doctor. She's not that kind of doctor, but she's a doctor, Miss Gandhi Thompson, and she's a very down-to-earth person. So we'll have a conversation about emotional and spiritual and social health.
So this is, we dubbed this called Holy Fit. And the idea of it is for us to be whole and fit. So when you see us come up with Holy Fit, look for different stuff regarding emotional health, spiritual health, mental health, physical health, all of that kind, eating healthy. So these are the different kind of stuff that you can see us doing. This is the first one that we've ever done.
Yep.
This is our launch of it. And this is an idea that my husband had for us to do, just to touch all of the different arms and aspects of everything that's going on now, everything that's happening. And it's very important for us to remain emotionally whole. with everything that's happening and to not get so overwhelmed and flustered. So that's the premise behind this, and to know that the emotional and the spiritual, they work together. So that's the aspect that we're going to be coming from. So our plan and our idea is to be with you for about half an hour tonight. So as she speaks and as she shares and as we have the conversation, go ahead and drop your questions down in here, and we will definitely ask questions. Okay, so we are going to pull her in now, and we welcome to with us tonight, Dr. Gandhi.
Hey, Doc.
Hey, what's up? Hi, guys. Hi, Brian. Hi, Audra. How's everybody?
Hey, Gandhi.
Hey, how you doing?
I am well. I'm excited to be here with you guys and everybody else tonight.
We're excited to
have you. Yes. Excited to be on the inaugural Holy Fit.
Yes.
Yes. Let's start this, right?
Yep.
Right.
So I'm ready for the conversation.
Just go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You were saying something?
No, I'm saying without further ado, we can let you go rip and run.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I was excited when you guys gave me an invitation to share on being wholly fit. What does that really look like? I'm happy that you didn't really invite me to share only on being physically fit, because
I know, right?
I'm still working on my summer body, and summer's just around the corner. But again, being wholly fit indeed is a work in progress for many of us, especially as Christians. So many times as Christians, we only focus on being spiritually fit. And so your conversation or your topic tonight really allows us to focus on being holistic, making sure that from a holistic perspective, we're well. So, of course, there are some Christians who believe that once we are saved, sanctified, and speaking in tongues, that is all we need to ensure that, we're on our way to heaven. But of course, we live in a world, and we not only live in this world, but we participate in this world. And that's the benefit of us being alive today. And here we are as believers participating in the world during a pandemic. Okay. And we would be naive to think that it's only those who are non-believers that are feeling the emotional and the social distancing stress that comes along with being alive during this era. So essentially, what does being wholly fit looks like, or what does emotional and spiritual fitness looks like, especially amidst crisis? But we have crisis every day. So this is a global crisis, but essentially in our lives, we've had crisis. I think I met Brian years ago in the midst of a personal crisis he was going through. Similarly, Brian was there for me when I went through a physical and emotional crisis when my brother died. And so we live in a world where in one day you can experience several different emotions. The other night I had to take a minute because this homeschooling thing was creating a crisis within itself for me. And I had to pull back and do a mental check and an emotional check and say, hey, I need to put some boundaries in place. If I don't, my daughter will be graduating in grade 1 because I cannot work her through the rest of the semester. So essentially, emotional well-being, in order for us to be emotionally fit, we must have some level of emotional intelligence. And that means that it's important to understand, especially as Christians, our emotional intelligence, because you can go to a church service, the music could be right, the worship leader could be on point, and you could have an emotional time in the Lord, and you could think you connected. And so it's important to have emotional intelligence to understand your own emotions, but also how those emotions play out in your interactions with others. So similarly, it's important also to have or to be spiritually aware of your spirituality in this point, because, for instance, let's just say you are a Christian who is living alone now. While we can always say that God is a very present help, you can have thoughts of loneliness. You can, because you're not able to go to work and have those social injections of people. And let's just say you're an extrovert and you're now living in your apartment alone and not having the fellowship of your saints, not having your coworkers around. You too can experience some emotional, I would say some emotional occurrences in that your emotions can be fluctuating throughout the day as night falls, and the food store run is finished and you go back to that lonely apartment. You may want to be texting that old person that you don't want to be texting. So similarly, as we practice social distance and we move into, for some of us, isolation, and for some of us, solitude, and for some of us, detachment, because there is a difference in that you can be alone but still attached to something. You can be alone in your house, but you can be attached on your social media platforms that you don't feel alone. Similarly, you can be with people and still be emotionally detached. And so as we look at what emotional and spiritual fitness look like in this time, there's just a few tips that I want to leave with persons. The first thing is to try to spend some time understanding um, your emotional reactions and interactions with others. For me, one of the things that I had to really, my husband always said it, and of course I tried to defend myself, but my husband always said that I could always tell when you're about to go off. I was like, what are you talking about? So at some point, if I don't get enough rest, that's a red flag for me. I have to have enough rest in order for me to regenerate. Similarly, I also not only have to have enough rest, many persons think that I'm only an extrovert, but in fact, I'm really an introvert on the spectrum of extroverts, in that I cannot take constant interaction with people. I do need time where I need to pull back. And so if you see me continually pouring out of myself or continually interacting with others, it eventually affects my emotions. Another way for us to get in contact with our emotions is to understand our feelings on certain things. And that was a trigger for me because I wasn't one that would openly express my feelings. I thought in order to guard my heart with all diligence, I needed to be very cautious as to what I say and how I share my emotions with others. Um, I had a situation where I had to write something the other day, and I wrote it for a psychologist. And in writing it, one of the things that the psychologist recognized, and I didn't even recognize it, that there was no emotional attachment to it. At no point did I say, I feel this way, or when you did this, this bothered me, or how this impacted me. Everything I wrote was just from a factual or a non-emotional standpoint. Now, many of us work in jobs that require us to not become emotionally attached to the scenarios or to the situations. For instance, I'm a risk manager, and so I primarily from day to day I assess risks, and I respond to numerous communication with sympathy and empathy, but I can't carry the emotional weight of all the scenarios that I encounter on a daily basis. One of the things I had to learn to do then was to acknowledge my feelings, but even in acknowledging them, separate them from my communication. And so, because I was part, I'd gotten into a process of every time I communicate, I would write void of my emotional attachment in those communications. I then realized that outside of work, I was beginning to remove my emotional attachment from some of my interactions as well. And once I started practicing the words, I feel this way. When this person did this, this impacted me this way. I get angry when I have to do this. This scenario, whenever this arises, it makes me sad. And it's also important that while we not only understand our emotions, is to understand the energy and the emotions attached to other people. For instance, if you're there and you're watching this, and I say the words to you, I'm sad. If you are really connected to what I'm saying and you're trying to read my body language, it is very easy for that energy to transfer to you. If you close your eyes, for instance, and imagine me saying, I'm happy, that energy as well is transferable because you could see that something's going on. You may not have an idea as to what I'm happy about, but you will pick up on the energy from my voice and from my facial expressions, what it is that I'm communicating to you. as parents, and this is a tip I want to leave for parents who probably are homeschooling, who's probably already cooked a million meals since we've been in this pandemic, to be also very cautious of your interactions with your children in terms of your emotional intelligence, because you want to make sure that you're sensitive enough to acknowledge what's going on with them and why they're doing certain things. One of the things that I've noticed during this pandemic is my daughter, who's 6 years old, she started speaking in like baby talk again. All of a sudden, she was doing very good in some of her words, and now she's taken on this little baby wording she would use from time to time. And I realized that in that, it was her way of showing me that a lot of things was taken away from her friends. She realized that I was sharing my time a lot with my son, who was doing, I guess, harder coursework. And so she was just trying to ensure that I'm still the baby. You guys aren't overlooking me. And so as we parent in the midst of this pandemic, that's another thing we want to look at in terms of understanding the emotional intelligence of even those we are surrounded or who we have to care for in this time. Now, as it relates to the spirituality aspect of it, this is, I would say, this is an amazing time for us as Christians to, I would use the word that my associate pastor has been using, reset. It's an amazing time for us to really spend more time with the Lord, spend more time developing our own spirituality. And by that, I'm talking about our orthodoxy. What do we believe? What do we really believe? Do we believe that God is going to bring us through this? What are the beliefs that we have been meditating on? What are the scriptures we've been meditating on, and how they've been forming us spiritually in this time? This is also a good time for us to look at our orthopathy in terms of our Christian emotions. Am I really sensitive towards my brother and sister who has lost a job, who is not working now? Am I showing them that I care? Which is the orthopraxy, our practices in the season. What is it that, how are we integrating our spirituality, our beliefs? How are we integrating all of these things, our thoughts, our beliefs, and our practices? And how are they mirroring Christ in this pandemic? We can't be like the world. We can't be gripped with fear because we have hope. That doesn't mean that fear will not try to grip us. But when we are very cognizant of what it is that we truly believe and who we truly believe in and whose we truly are, we have a secret weapon that we can better equip ourselves. Now, as it relates to social distancing and connecting with others in this time, I think this is an excellent time for us to connect with others. During this pandemic, I have had the opportunity to reconnect with students abroad because I have more time in my hands. And so, how are you doing? A simple, how are you doing? And I asked a friend of mine that recently, a student, and her answer to me was, I'm okay. And that was it. And because I was going through my phone and trying to text a few of them, I was quick to move on and then text somebody else. But I sensed something saying to me, I sensed the Lord saying to me, go back and ask her, how are you really doing? And of course, that led into a deeper conversation at which that was an invitation then to move beyond the generic, how are you? And invited us, even though there was distance, to socially connect through social media, through WhatsApp. And she was able to send me a 3-4 minute voice note, really expressing some of the challenges that she was having. So there are ways that we can move towards holistic fitness in the midst of this pandemic and even beyond this, because this too shall pass. And so we want to move to a state of wholeness, that not just wholeness in terms of developing practices that we relinquish as soon as we're up and about, but practices that center us even as we move forward beyond this. I don't know, Audra. Yes.
Hello.
Hey,
Hey,
yeah,
Doc.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
Coping with technology.
Yeah.
No problem.
Um, But I wanted to ask you about, there was a word that you said in there, talking about how do we show our spirituality in practice, our emotion, empathizing with our brother or our sister and what they're going through, and what does that look like? Why is it important for us not to just say it, but show it as practically?
But yeah, it's essential that we do that. The reason being is, I'm sorry, it's hard to preach to a hungry person.
Yeah,
You know, I'm before I came on, I realized that Bamboo Shack line was closing 7 o'clock. I'm just being real, right? It is hard to preach to a hungry person. So if we can't understand how our practices or how our actions affect each other during the season, we're missing a big part of the gospel. We're saying to people we're Christians or we're wholly saved, but they won't be seeing that. And so not only that, how you give is also important. You can't just throw a plate of food at somebody and expect them to feel loved and appreciated. You got to package that, with love. You got to present that to them, even in your actions. And so, and sometimes if you give somebody $5, but you give that to them with love, they feel like you gave them 20 because they understand the sacrifice behind that. And so this is an opportune time for us to show an integrated spirituality where our beliefs and our actions and our emotions all line up in what we're doing among our brothers and sisters in the world.
Okay. Awesome. And I wanted to piggyback on that because oddly enough, I had this conversation with someone today, and someone who is expressing that sometimes they don't want to ask too much because they don't want to open a can of worms. So they feel like they're not at a place because they're not the deacon, the reverend, the most bishop, apostle elect from the Arch Canterbury to deal to deal with anything. They figure. But I think, like how you said earlier, that a $5 or a tender word spoken at the right time, can be effective. But what do you say to someone who feels inadequate at this time to assist anybody? Maybe because they may be dealing with their own image and.
Yeah, I mean, there is always a reason why we could say we shouldn't give. I'll be honest with you. One of my friends called me the other day, and a few weeks back, like a week and a half before she called me, I had a few items that I was in a position to share. So when she called me and she was like, hey, do you still have those items? And I was like, well, yeah, I have 4 left. You can have 2. Now, in a way, I felt kind of bad offering her 2 because 2 isn't a lot. Do you understand my point? And you don't really. I felt like, gee, maybe I should offer her the whole 4. But of course, I also knew that, well, that conversation would require a deeper conversation with my husband. But at the point, I knew at the very least I had 2 that I could offer her. And I'm saying that to say that in this current economy, little is going to be a lot for a lot of people. And if we were to think or wait on somebody else, I think we need to understand when we look at Jesus Christ today and we think about that's our primary example of who we should be. Though some of them didn't see him as Jesus Christ while he was alive, while he walked among them. For many of them, he was the carpenter's son.
Right.
So people, they're not, when he healed somebody or when he did something, it was sometimes during those acts of kindness that they had a revelation as, hey, something special about this guy. So if you're waiting on a title to act, you could be waiting a long time. And Brian, we know of people who've waited a long time for titles. So you've got to act in your space. You've got to act in your space. One amazing thing happened the other morning. It was on Easter morning, and I was sitting down, and across the street from me lives a pastor, and next to the pastor was this lady that came out on her porch with the mic, and she was preaching the gospel, bro. And listen, I had on my little short pants and shirt, right? And I was to the gate receiving that message. And I didn't even know she was a Christian. And the only thing I could have thought of when she finished was like, why didn't I get that idea? She had a little mic set up and she wasn't going at 100, but it was such a blessing that on that Sunday morning, I didn't have to come to Facebook Live. I was in my neighborhood. There was this woman bold enough to talk about the goodness of the Lord. And I stayed with her the whole time. And I know she probably thought I was a sinner in my short pants who needed Jesus. But that was fine. I wanted to let her know, miss, you're not talking in vain. This is good. And so similarly, if we do these little acts of kindness, I don't even know if we do these little acts of kindness, people will see Jesus in us.
Yes.
People will see, what it is that we're saying, or we want to be saying we're preaching about. They'll see that God is with us.
Yes.
So
someone said little is much.
I agree with that. It is.
Yeah, someone said little is much. So before we go on any further, we just want you at this time because I think she's done with the official presentation. So if you have any questions, you go ahead and you put it in there and we'll ask it and she'll answer the questions for you. So you go ahead and put your questions in there now. But I have a question regarding the emotional aspect part of it. I know for some persons you alluded to it, especially those who may be single, living alone, and just dealing with the fact that you're by yourself. Can you help that person like some steps to have emotional, keep yourself sane, keep yourself together, knowing that okay, don't get all up in arms with what's happening. Can you help that single person? What advice would you give them?
Well, the first thing I would advise them to do is sit with themselves for a few minutes, okay? Because the assumption is the fact that people are alone, that they're sitting by themselves, and that's not what's happening. People are alone, but they're on their social media platforms or they're going through Facebook. So with that, you imagine you're single and you're going through your social media, your phone, and you see your ex-boyfriend with his new bae. You see the boy you haven't touched on with their bae. You're fueling wrong emotions right there. So the first thing I would say is take a few minutes to sit by yourself and really look into yourself and ask yourself, what am I truly feeling? Am I feeling boredom? Am I feeling loneliness? Am I feeling detached, a lack of entertainment? Am I truly missing somebody? Is there something from my childhood that I'm feeling that I'm not sure on? That's the first thing. Try to understand what it is you're feeling. If you're not able to process that, then I would recommend that you call somebody that you truly trust and share, because sometimes in a conversation, you speak out what you're feeling, what you're not able to process alone. Sometimes in a conversation, you're able to share. And if you're talking to an attentive listener, they're able to pull out, or if they know you personally, sometimes they're able to pull out of you some of what you may be experiencing. So the first step is to sit alone. The second step is to reach out to somebody that's competent and confident enough to give you good advice. The third thing I would ask you to do is pray about it. Now, when I say pray about it, a lot of people, this is where they get a little difficult. It gets a little bit dense because a lot of times when you're feeling stuff, you ain't really even talk to God. Right? You real there, like you will try when you get out yourself because you don't really want to talk to God. But let me give you a little hint. He kind of already knows, right? So heads up, he kind of knows what you're feeling. And what I like about God is, especially when you're alone, you could do away with the most heavenly Father. You ain't got to go through because just you and God. You be like, this rough. I can help me. What I feeling? God, help me, man. God, please. Cry out to the Lord. Talk to the Lord. Have a conversation with him. However you want to do it. You could be in your PJs. You could have on your makeup. You could do whatever. The third thing is, I want to encourage you is not to ignore what you're feeling. The fourth thing is, do not ignore it. If you sit with yourself and you realize that, look, that boy from 4 years ago, I still love him. I get one tie with this boy, I can't get over. Then this is where, if you have, I would recommend either a therapist, because there's a lot of therapists who would be able to work with you during this time. Reach out for help. Reach out for help. You may not have a therapist. You may not have a licensed therapist. You may have a counselor. You may have a youth director. You may have a friend who know that relationship was toxic. A trusted friend. I ain't just talking about when your girls, who's your ride? Who's your
Right.
ride? You know what I mean? And you can have those conversations with them as to what steps forward you can take. Some of the steps taking forward you can be is to find good material to listen to reset, to reframe your thought process. But you cannot, I would not recommend that you ignore whatever realities come out of your self-search.
Okay, awesome.
Good stuff. I wanted to re-emphasize something that you said earlier about being Jesus, not being Jesus, but showing Jesus in your small space, and however you were able to do that. And I think, like you said again, one of those things could be also a listening ear. Help someone to process something that they're going through by just listening to what's on their heart.
Right.
But we have a question in, and you want to take the question, babe?
Sure. We have the question, but we have two questions that just came in. I wanted the first question requested for you to share 2 tips on how one can reset in the midst of this pandemic.
Okay. Reset. Okay. So reset, I'm going to hope they mean holistically, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not a guru on certain things like fitness. Okay. But if I'm going to give a holistic response, then I think I should include that. So for me, I have been using this time to reset. I have been using this time to reset physically and holistically. One of the key things that I've been doing is, for instance, I've replaced one meal with a smoothie. Okay. It's so funny that once you plan to do stuff, the Lord will make a way in and help you. So, for instance, I went to the food store the other day, and I said, okay, because this person, whoever's listening or whoever asked this question, they may be like, sometimes it's so challenging because right now you can't find all of the vegetables and fruits that you could have found before in the food stores. Just this afternoon, somebody came and brought me some spinach and green peppers, some of the key ingredients that I would use in the spinach in my smoothie. So the first thing is to make a plan to reset. Like really sit with yourself and say, what are the key areas I want to reset in? Because you may not need to reset in every area of your life. Okay. But I do know that, there's 3 ways. I told one of my friends, we're coming out of this pregnant, we're coming out of this slim, or we're coming out of this fatter. Fat is not an option for me. Okay. Fat is not the option for me. So a part of my holy fit was to start to reckon a little bit more vegetables in my diet. Now, spiritually, I could not have had a better opportunity to come out of this spiritually fit, because I kept finding as work was going on and trying to be an entrepreneur and also teaching on the side, that my routine or my rule of life, the way I kind of try to manage my time to make sure that I'm spending time with God, was thrown out the window.
Yeah.
I was running, my days were running, and I wasn't living it, even though I was trying to adjust it. So what I did was I allotted a specific amount of time each day to spend with the Lord. Now, for those of you who are working home, trust me, it's still possible.
Yeah.
All you have to do is allot it a little bit earlier before you start work, or a little bit later once you start work. But once you plan that time and make it every day, some days you may choose to sing, some days you may choose to read your Bible, some days you may choose to listen to a podcast. But once you allocate that time and commit to it every day, it's almost like your body's going to start telling you it's time to be with Jesus. It's time to be with Jesus. And you can start getting a little excited, you can be like waking up 5 minutes earlier. And then God will start giving you grace to grow with Him.
That's good.
And then you will start seeing words come out of you. You'll be going on Facebook. Let's say you read your scripture and you just talk about grace, and you see Brian post something with grace. You go down, you see Pastor Cleopatra Williams post something in grace. You go down, you see your friend who even didn't say post one scripture with grace, and you be like, look at this, man. So you can, so to reset spiritually, I would say make sure allocate that time and spend it with God. For me, one of the things that I just faced a personal scenario with my family, and one of the things that helped me to really center during this time was journaling. So because journaling forced me to have to use the words, the feeling words that we talked about, like This
Yeah.
hurts. This really hurts. I am angry. I'm not getting answers. I'm so disappointed in the service I'm receiving.
Oh, that's
And
good.
I started to go through these words, and I could tell you, I am a passionate person. If I was Peter, I mean, if I was a disciple, I was going to be like Peter. Yeah, I was me and Jesus got to have to rebuke me a couple times, but I just have to like bring it down a notch, and I was feeling my emotions surge, for lack of a better word. And I shared one of my friends, and we had both agreed that we felt like this was a season where God was teaching me patience. So now, of course, if God is teaching you patience, you got to be prepared to long suffer.
Yeah.
Suffer through some things to get to the point where you see God's hand, and also to trust God. And so there were certain things that um, I was trying to maneuver that I couldn't figure out how to maneuver. But as I spent the morning, each morning as I came in, and each time I had a break from the kids, and I came back into my rhythm with God, like the grace was coming every day. Now, Brian, here's the thing: God wasn't giving me grace for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Giving me enough for today. And I think that's important as you reset to understand that in this time and season, you may only be getting your daily bread. You may
Yeah.
only be getting enough grace to the next session you have with God. But guess what? That's fine because His grace is sufficient.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't need to have a stock up, and you don't need to know where things are gonna go 2 days from now. But you're growing. The first day you go to the gym and you go on the scale, you may not see where the weight loss take place, but you would have gained muscles. And similarly with spirituality, the more time we spend with God, we may not automatically see an instant shift in our life, but we're gaining spiritual muscles. We're developing in the spirit. We're growing patience. We're growing in love. We're growing in long suffering. And so the two tips simply would be plan, whether that be for whatever. Make plan to spend time or plan to work on that particular area, execute that area. And if you mess up, if for some reason you overslept or work called you in a little bit earlier, reset in terms of make that adjustments where you see this didn't work this week. Every week for the first 4 weeks of the first 4 weeks of my pandemic, I had to readjust my schedule because life keep coming at me a different way each week. But guess what? Don't give up. That's the third thing. Don't give up. Make the adjustments that is necessary. Um, Exercise the discipline required to show up. Show up for your appointments with God. Show up with your salad to make the salad. Don't just buy the stuff. Show up to make it. Cut them
Right.
up in the blender, and you'll start to see the results.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Okay, so we have two more questions that came in. If you have any questions, by the way, feel free to drop your questions in. We're doing questions now. Okay, the next question is, I think you kind of answered it, but I'll give you a few seconds. You could go ahead and elaborate a little bit. How do I get closer with God and understand His teaching as a young believer?
Okay. So, how do I get closer with God? So, this is going to sound very cliche-ish, and I used to hear it and I didn't believe it. The key way to start to get closer with God is really to read and pray more. That's the basic principle. So, we learn in school, read your Bible, pray every day, and do grow. And I used to thought it was cliche-ish, but here's the thing. The reading and praying is the same principles we use in relational skills. So Brian is sitting next to his wife because he was able to read his wife's personality, and he was able to communicate. There. This is holy fit. This is all this is.
Yeah.
They were able to communicate daily, or communicate to the point. And you know how it is with that new love. I love you. No, I love you more. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. As you begin to like really talk more to that person, or talk more and more to God, it gets easier. At first, it starts to feel a little bit weird. Let's be
Yeah.
realistic. We all didn't. Those of us who have these powerful prayer lives, or people like Brian and Audrey who have these, who can pray for. I see they have every time I come on, they have a prayer-a-thon or another prayer thing. Those persons, they didn't just wake up one morning and get there. And it's okay if you start off with 3, 4, 5 minutes. My daughter's prayer life is one of repetition now. She just says the whole thing, and I'm trying to correct her, but then I'm also understanding that maybe the repetition to some degree isn't bad because she's trying to spend time with God. She's trying to say she is praying a little bit longer. But I would want to encourage you is to pray more. Now, that can get boring. And when I say boring, if you feel like God isn't talking to you, oh, and let me just say this with the prayer. With prayer, don't just go to God and say, blah, 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 amen, and then go about your day. Take some time, take about 2 minutes before you pray to center your thoughts and to really connect with what is it that I'm feeling? What is it that I'm thinking? What is it that God may want me to say to him today? So let's start there. Then when you open up with prayer and then you've said all you want to say, sit with him a little bit longer and see if he says anything to you. Now, at first, that's going to seem extremely weird because, like, what does God want to say to me? But then sometimes it's going to feel as if you're just remembering stuff. But then, even in that process, go back to him then. So if you see you already spent 5 minutes, you took the first minute and a half just sitting with him. You took 3 minutes talking to him, then you go back and do another minute and a half. And then let's just say something comes to you that you didn't remember, like you had probably scraped somebody's car and that came back to you. So then maybe you can go back and mention that. And then it's because it's conversational.
Yes.
Once we reframe how we consider prayer,
Yeah.
you realize that there's a whole lot we can talk to God about. And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be rushed. Now, with reading the Bible, I always tell people, if you new at reading the Bible, a young believer, I would say start with the Psalms and the Proverbs. The reason is the Proverbs could give you a wisdom to grow as a person holistically. Like those Proverbs teach you how to live day to day. The Psalms reminds you to have gratitude, but it also allows you of the afflictions or life's troubles and how Christ is able to bring us out of them. And then I would recommend you get connected with somebody who knows the word. Now, a lot of younger persons um, may find the traditional church setting not what they want. But if you look in your group of friends, most persons know somebody who's saved good.
Oh yeah.
Or who's saved reasonably good. So maybe you connect with that person a little bit more. See what you could get from them. See what nuggets you can get from them. Share with them something you read that you don't understand. And of course, there's always the Gospels. I think the Gospels are definitely Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. It definitely helps you to understand the life and the ministry of Jesus. But the reading the Bible and the prayer is important. And if I were to ask another one, I would say express gratitude all the time. Once you have a heart of thanksgiving, it's amazing to see what flows back into that heart.
Awesome. Okay, and we have another question in. If you have any questions, feel free to drop your questions in the comment box. We will answer them for you. Okay, so this is another one. It says, what advice would you give someone who is just learning how to appreciate and spend time with themselves?
What advice would I give someone
who is just learning how to appreciate and spend time with themselves?
I would say enjoy it. But be very conscious of your emotions towards it. And let me explain to why I say that. A lot of times we, as persons, we can move from one extreme to the next. I'm not sure how many of you have seen this, but many churches have moved from in the four walls to fully going on social media, virtual, right? Now that is good, but we have to always try to strike a balance. And by that I mean, while for the church, a lot of our energy has gone to how do we now migrate to these social media platforms. We still can't remember that the gospel is not just proclamation. So we still need to see how then can we still service our communities in this pandemic beyond the virtual church, because then we would miss out on how we could provide to those who have actual physical needs amidst this crisis. Or maybe the church could then say, for instance, or not the church, but this individual who's alone has to understand that their emotions they have to carefully watch their emotions, because you don't want to end up a hermit.
True.
And that you love so much being home that you no longer want to fully integrate back into the wider community. So I think it's good to watch those feelings, guard them, and cherish them. If this, because be sensitive to them, because God may be calling you to Himself. And if God is calling you to Himself, then ask Him, God, what do you want me to do with this time? Do you want me to develop my gifting? Should I be, if I'm a piano, should I be playing more? Are you calling me to yourself to know you better? Are you trying to reveal something about me to me? Are you, do you just want us do you want me to just grow in you? Are you preparing me for a greater work? Are you teaching me discipline? You know, how do what are you saying to me? And once we begin, one of the things I like with the Bible or with God is that if we seek Him with our whole heart, we will find Him.
Yeah.
And so once you start to pour out yourself to Him, He pours into us as well, because He's been there waiting on us. And He will help you to fill the time, to manage the time, to maximize the time, and then also to show you how much of yourself you would probably need to integrate with or share with others in order for you to still be socially connected, but yet appreciate the time you have alone with Him.
That's good. That's good. Okay, we have another question just came in. How would you encourage someone whose faith in God is lessened because of the pandemic and or any lack they may be experiencing as a result of the pandemic? Example, job, money, food. So what encouragement would you give to someone whose faith is being challenged at this time in God as a result of the pandemic?
I would say, well, first of all, I want to say that these are real feelings. You know, I want to validate that those concerns or that lack of faith for them. I can appreciate what they're saying, and I think it's a question that resonates with a lot of people right now. There was a song that I want to say that ministered to me recently, and I hope that it ministers to them. The fact that we don't see God working doesn't mean He's not working. So the fact that this pandemic came, it surprises many of us. But here's what I know: the fact that we're alive, God is able to sustain us through it.
Yeah.
I want to encourage that person that God, the mere fact that they ask this question, God knows that they has this doubt already, or they have this concern already, and He's already working on it. The thing with this pandemic, what it does is it forces us to show that we've had a lot of misplaced faith.
Yeah.
And so now it's a good opportunity for us to direct our faith back to God. I say that because I used to think my job was important, but here's the thing: my job ain't important, because I'm working for the past 4 weeks and I'm still alive and I'm still eating. We have a mortgage. Do I know what's going to happen with that in the next couple of months, years? No. But what I do know that is God already knows. My work don't know, but God already knows. So man is trying to figure out how long this pandemic will last, what's going to be the vaccine. We're trying to figure out as individuals, like what's our next couple months from here look like? What's the economy going to look like? How are we going to pay our bills? But we've had misplaced trust in a lot of areas. It's time for us now to try to place it in God. Because we really don't have many other options. We could continually think that us believing that our jobs were the answers and the solution means that they were, but we're now learning that half of the things we trusted in isn't. I've seen people saying that, oh, I can't wait to fly again. Well, every day we go on a plane and we trust a pilot we've never seen.
Come on.
You know, but yet the God who created the universe, I can't trust Him that He will sustain me. I could trust Him. I feel like you can trust Him and try Him. Like, just as I'm talking to you, like, go back to God with your concerns. Just how God, like, what's happening next, and watch Him not show up for you. Watch Him show up for you, because He desires this for us. He wants to prove Himself. He wants to prove Himself to you. And I want to encourage you that putting your faith in God right now is the best option. He's working on you. You may not see, He's working on your behalf. Sorry. He's behind the scene. All the things that you're worrying about, He's working on. If the flowers can survive this, and the flowers and the trees and the ocean has survived years of pollution, um, years of not having people farming and stuff, and they survived. You think God is trying to take you out?
Come
See,
on.
Arthur, He got you. He has got you. You just gotta believe Him, because this is an opportunity for our faith to arise, and also to be invested in the right place. Um, some trust in horses, some trust in jobs, some trust in the prime minister and the government. I would say let's trust in the Lord.
Yeah.
Amen. And you preach a whole preach just now.
Yeah.
But it is so applicable to us in this time, because it's like God is showing us that all these things may fail and falter, but I'm still here.
Yeah.
Sometimes our attention was looking this way and looking that way, but now it becomes real to us. Look to the hills, from whence cometh your help. For your help cometh from the Lord. Our focus is now directed towards Him. And so in this time, we have no other option but to trust God. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
And Brian, one of the things I want to say is work your faith in God, because faith without works is dead. Listen, so I'll just be transparent with this person that asked that. I don't like social media. I'm one of those people that struggle. I'm one of those people that struggle on social media platforms. We're 52 minutes in this conversation, and I'm starting to finally feel relaxed, okay? Because the anxiety was real to come on here. But here's what I'm doing on here. I'm putting my faith in action. So I believe that God called me to be used by me. I'm not comfortable on this platform. I'm not comfortable sharing with you today, but I'm putting my faith in action. I am making myself available to what I believe God may be open to doing to me in this season. And I want you to work your faith. Trust anything that you feel God has been. This is a good time to sharpen the things that remain in you, to stir up the gifts that are in you. And so I don't know what your fears are, but use faith over those fears. And let your actions line up with where that faith is. And so, listen, I'm unemployed, but listen, I am believing God that I'm going to be employed. And so
Yeah.
until I become employed again, I can put my faith in action on the things that God has given me is a voice. I do have a degree, and I'm using it. And so I believe God will make the doors open for you to put your faith in action. And it may be a simple things in the morning that you do, or in the afternoon that you do, that you're going to see God making room for your gift to work in this season. But God is working behind the scenes.
Awesome. And I just want to say that I did, since you brought it up, how we talked about Yanni was like, can you get somebody else? I'm not comfortable doing this, but listening to you, you heard God speak through you. You heard that God has deposited something in you for the people.
Yeah.
And you've seen how it's been blessing people. I've seen people, oh, that's good, Dr. Gandhi. Oh, you're speaking to me right now.
Yeah.
And God is one of those things where he sometimes he lets you put the rod out there and the water splits, and sometimes he says, step in the water, and then it parts. But I want to thank you so much for yielding to God and allowing God to use you. And Doc, you don't doubt what God has put inside of you, because it's very helpful, and you're bringing help to the people.
Yeah.
And as we're about to leave, I'll ask you to close in prayer, and just, you're in the water. You might as well go all the way through.
Close in prayer and give any comments that you may have for those that are listening with us.
Okay. So I just really want to encourage everybody out there that that's feeling the pressure, or maybe facing depression with all that's going on around them. if you look around you, there is enough for us to be distracted, to be fearful, to be concerned. Is the beginning of the end? Is this the end? Is this, it's there are questions that I know that a lot of us have. And here's the thing though. The song that says that many things about tomorrow I don't seem to understand, but I know who holds tomorrow and I know who holds my hand. We live in a time when non-Christians are quoting Psalms 91. Everybody's quoting Psalms 91. But listen, the Psalms 91 starts with he who abides in the secret place. So in essence, it talks about relationship. And so this is a wonderful time to strengthen your relationship. And I believe the question to you tonight is, will thou truly be made whole? Some of us desire to be made financially fit. We want that job back so our money could be right. Okay. We want that, we want places to open so socially we could be right. Right. I heard somebody pray today for a husband, and I was just like, boo, if a husband ain't it, if you think the husband could be it, honey, you don't know the amount of work that goes into marriage, right? And it wasn't my place to step in and give her that. But I'm saying that to you. The question to you is, will you be made whole? And one of the key things to becoming whole is your spirituality, is getting your soul right. Because here's the question: what will it profit you to gain the whole world and lose your soul? So here it is. Here's the thing with this pandemic. Nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow besides God. The researchers don't know. The presidents don't know. The doctors don't know. The scientists don't know. All right. And so we're all, even for the most intelligent persons, we're on the same level playing field in terms of not knowing how this is all going to play out. But I prefer to know that I have confidence and trust in a person that does know, because he is the beginning and he is the end. He is the Alpha. He is the Omega. And so today I want to encourage you, tonight, I want to encourage you to trust God. That's hard. That's hard, but think about it. We done tried trusting so many other things. This is a good time to try to trust God. So I'm going to pray, and no, I'm not going to lay hands and speak in tongues the way Brian does it. I'm just going to lead us into a very, very simple prayer. But let's bow our heads. Father, we just thank you.
Thank you, Lord.
And we pause to receive from you.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
Touch the hearts, Father, of all who are listening.
Yes, Lord.
Yes, Lord.
Touch their minds, touch their bodies, touch their spirit.
Yes.
Bring your peace, Father, that passeth all understanding.
Yeah.
Rest your grace upon every listener, God. Have mercy. Restore, strengthen, save, heal,
Yes, Lord.
touch, encourage, minister.
Yes.
Let all those feel your love, Father. Let them be reminded that your grace is sufficient.
Yes, Lord.
Let your kingdom come into their lives and into their hearts. We are careful to give you all the praise, God. We're careful to give you all the glory. Father, I pray for those who had questions tonight.
Yes.
Father, I pray that you answer them directly, Father.
Yes, Lord. Touch
That
them.
you reveal yourself to them, dear God, and that you guide and comfort them in their way they should grow. Father, we love and we appreciate your presence tonight. We thank you, God, because you're present with us wherever we are. Have your way with Brian and Audra and all those they seek to minister to, Father. Have your way. We bless you, and we ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Well, that's it for our very first, and what should have been 30 minutes end up being for an hour. Thank you
Yep.
so much, Dr. Gandhi. Thank you so much. If by any chance you may have had a question that you wasn't comfortable with asking in the open, you can feel free and inbox us the question. Or if you have a personal private something you would like to speak to Dr. Gandhi about, she is on Facebook, Gandhi Thompson. And you can go right ahead and you can send her a private message, and I'm certain that she would respond and she would answer you. We are here as best as we can, all of us, to help each other through this, because like she alluded, we're in this together. So thank you so much once again for all of you for being with us.
And if you enjoy this content, like us, share, subscribe, and follow us to get more content like this. As the Lord give it to us, we'll give it to you.
Awesome. And that's it. That's it for us. Thank you so much, Dr. Gandhi, and all those that were with us. Have a good night.
Good night. Bye.